Thank you. Awesome. We appreciate you doing that. So anyway, we'll give it one more minute here. It's funny how before in the world of Zoom, if we were 1 or 2 minutes off one way or the other, it was no big deal, right? And now we're like, oh my gosh, it's 1 minute, so we have to give a little bit of grace there and see if we can allow for folks whose clocks may not be set to whatever James Bond's time is set to, right? So to be as specific as we can.
So why don't you share, while we wait for a couple of people, why don't you share what we're going to go over today?
Absolutely, I'd love to. So we're going to talk a little bit about the economy and what's going on with the economy. And you can see I've got this pulled up on my screen for us to look at and talk about today. Place shared some information with Robbie and Wes and I and others. And so we wanted to share it with everybody because it's just great information. I shared it with my team yesterday just to give us some perspective on talking points as we meet with our buyers and our sellers, especially in this market. They're looking to us to be the voice of reason when all around them's crazy right now. And so we got to have data to do that with. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today as well. But I'm just curious, as people are coming in, who's had something awesome happen this week? Anybody want to share something fantastic or awesome that's happened your way this week? Nobody's had anything awesome happen this week? Oh my gosh, we've had a wonderful week around our team. Been busy.
Tyler Pearson, did anything awesome happen to you today?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, good morning. Good morning. Hey, Jody, how are you today?
Good. Can you hear me?
I can. I sure can, Jody.
Oh, well, I had something amazing for our team.
Tell me what's amazing. Jody's one of the rock stars on the Charlotte Mabry team. So there's always something amazing going in Jody's world.
Oh, yes. I met this fabulous family a while back, and we've been in a nature reserve, and they were very specific. They were going to go in there and buy 3 or 4 houses. And I was like, oh, well, fact is, yes, we're under contract with a family. And then the aunt came in, another contract. We're looking at a 3rd house for another aunt. So it's 3 sisters coming together to retire, and then only one grand.
That is awesome. That's awesome. Where did those leads come from? I'm just curious.
That family came from, oh my gosh, I would have to look. I honestly can't even remember at the moment. Okay. But hold 1 minute. I'm in Brevard. I'll tell you.
Okay, perfect. That's awesome. That'd be great to do that. So thank you, Jody, for sharing that. Who else has had something exciting happen this week? It's been a tough week in Texas. I'm going to take a side turn there. We definitely need to pray for those families. It's been a hard week. So it's hard to even think through that, but we are very blessed to still have our families up and going. Yeah, Jody, go ahead.
Google reviews.
Oh, perfect. Okay, awesome. That's great. Those Google reviews, if you're not doing that, that's so incredibly important. Every time you get a closing, anything that happens, getting those Google reviews. We've been working on that as a team, and Jody is a rock star on getting Google reviews. And so that's playing out for you, Jody, isn't it? That's awesome. That's super.
And getting to you, don't forget about using Keller Williams and Place. I mean, it really helps. It really does. Thank you, Charlotte.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, Jody. That's awesome. Fantastic. Anybody else, anything you'd like to share this morning? We always, like I say, I've got my dogs running around here this morning. So if you hear barking and insanity, that'll be why. So anyway, well, let's talk a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we want to talk a little bit about some data that we're going to share today. Jody has seen a little of this because we did a little bit of this yesterday, and with our team, just talking through some of the general information. You know, our clients expect us and hope that we are the voice of reason, the voice of knowledge when we're talking with them. And so this data is something that I think will really give us some of the leg up, the what we need to do to stay ahead of the competition when it comes to what's going on in the market. So I thought I'd share a little of this, and I'm going to give a soliloquy here and talk a little bit on some of this, but please, if you've got feedback or thoughts or your take on something, we won't do all of this, but just to give you a little perspective for some of the information out there. Who thinks we're having inflation right now? Anybody besides me? Yeah. If you're as old and decrepit as I am, you've seen inflation before. We're definitely seeing it right now. Interestingly enough, if you look 3 years ago in 2019, how was 2019 3 years ago? But anyway, 2.3 annualized amount of appreciation, a number there. In December of this past year, we were on pace for 7%. But if you look up here a little bit, right now we're pacing at 8.5% inflation. That's a pretty quick clip right now. So the thought on that would be, if you pay $100 for gas today, next week you may pay $108.50 for it because of the pace of appreciation. So them's not good news necessarily. It does impact the entire economy, and it will impact the housing arena as well, as we'll see here in just a second. Unemployment is actually not a bad story right now, based on, by the way, most of this information came from Goldman Sachs. So it's one of the cool things about Place being their business partner. We have an opportunity to share those things. But if you look even as far back as 2007 and looking at unemployment, and you kind of draw a straight line across and you see where we are today, we're not that far off from what has been a standard thing. This dip in the market right here was the 2009, 2010 glut of houses on the market. And this dip right here was the pandemic. So when you see things out of the norm, you're like, okay, something's up. And that's what happened during those timeframes. Unemployment does make a difference in people being able to buy houses and all. This is underemployment and overemployment. I think the biggest thing right now is looking at disposable income. For people who are looking at purchasing homes, having that disposable income per person is important. And interesting, since 2015, again, if you just draw a straight line, you're going to see pretty much this was all pandemic driven, right? And these bumps right here were probably from where the United States government gave some money to some folks, whether they needed it or not. Sorry, I'm getting political. I'll stay away from that. And but disposable income per person is still rising from where it has been in the past. So that's an interesting thing. If you look at mortgages right now, this is so fascinating to me. We had a mortgage broker in our office. Jody was there yesterday, and she shared with us some of their products and all. But if you look at this light blue line, that's adjustable rate mortgages. And if you look at this dark blue line, that's fixed rate mortgages. And in 2020, they were tracking with each other. And then as the fixed rate interest rate got kind of low, everybody's like, I'm not doing that adjustable rate. I'm going to go for the fixed rate. And you can see that outpaced adjustable rates by far. But look what's just happened right here at the end of this chart right here. What are you seeing right there? What's happening right there? What's happening to those two lines right there? They're crossing each other, aren't they? Right? So for the first time in a long, long time, we are seeing the adjustable rate mortgage applications outpace the interest rate applications for a fixed interest rate. What do you think that means? Why are we seeing that? Anybody got an idea on that? Robbie, what would you say? Why would you think we'd see something like that?
That's a good question. I was right there with everybody else. I'm excited to hear what you have to say about it.
Well, it's my opinion. Okay, that's all it is. But when people's perception that 5% interest rate is too high, then they're like, oh my gosh, I got to do something else. And I think that's what's driving a lot of people getting an adjustable rate mortgage when maybe that isn't the best thing they could do. Because they think that 5% is too high. And here's why I think people are thinking that. Let me go one on past that. This right here is fascinating to me. This is a chart that shows interest rates, the outstanding mortgages. In other words, everybody in America that has a mortgage right now, what are their interest rates? 98% of the people that have a loan right now, their interest rate is below 5%. So think about that. I mean, if you are in a house and you bought it and you've got a 2 3/4 interest rate, how likely are you to be interested in getting a 5% interest rate on a new mortgage? Probably not too likely, right? You're not interested in that. And I'm even wondering if people are going to be interested in selling because they got to pay more money for the same house now and the interest rate's higher. So most likely that will be a discouragement for people to even think about selling. Again, that's a script for us of why, I mean, stuff happens, right? People get divorced, people have children, they get transferred, they're going to buy and sell. But for the people that might have done that on a more discretionary basis, I would think people have to rethink that. I mean, if 98% of people out there have a mortgage under 5%, and now we're talking 5, 6, 7% interest rates, that is probably why people are getting adjustable rate mortgages. They're freaking out. Most of our agents, you guys on the call, have you ever seen a market where there were 5% interest rates? The vast majority of our agents even haven't seen that. So that's something, it's an interesting thing to think about how that will impact the market.
Charlotte, I got a question about that last slide.
Yeah.
So if we go back to that last slide, it's outstanding mortgages. So people who are late, correct, on their mortgage payments?
This is actually people who actually have a mortgage and its mortgage rate is under a certain amount. This is not who's late. And so there is another slide coming up that shows delinquencies, and that's actually down to very minimal.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Sorry, I didn't explain that well. Sorry about that. This is all the mortgages that are still out there active that haven't been paid off and what interest rates they were taken at. So almost every mortgage sitting out there right now is less than 5% that people are still paying on. So who's going to refinance right now? Nobody. I mean, look at this low number right here. Nobody's going to refinance right now. People did back in this time frame because the interest rates were much lower. But as far as people having that incentive to refinance, that's not going to be much right now. This is just effective rates. We won't go into all of that. Whether standards for people to get a loan. It got a little tighter with the pandemic. It's eased up. This lender that was at our office yesterday was talking about, no documentation loans, no money down loans. I'm like, oh my gosh, that sounds like 2007, 8, 9 again. I mean, I get nervous about that. So when I hear that sort of thing. But again, credit availability, it's very conservative right now. It's not like we saw back then. So that's a good thing from that perspective. I'm going to skip a couple of things here. Debt to income. Let's talk about pricing for right now. If you look at housing sales growth, it still remains positive. This is a 6-month moving average. Obviously, In 2008 and 9 and 10, life was a little cuckoo there when the market dropped. Same thing here with the pandemic. It looks just like this, but the other direction. And so now we are still this baseline staying above that. So from a housing activity, even though it seems tight, it is still fairly normal here. I'm sorry, my dog has decided he's going to talk to me this morning while we're doing this. Housing prices, affordability though, is way down. What people can afford to buy. Way back in 2009 and 10, when the market fell apart and interest rates began to drop, we saw where anybody who basically fogged a mirror could afford a house, right? Interesting, look now with house prices going up and interest rates going up, look what's happened to affordability. Woo, it's plummeting, right? So when people say, gosh, I'm not sure I can afford that, they may be right. And we have to look at what they can actually buy for the money they can afford to spend. Rent, whether rent was more affordable or less affordable, mortgage more affordable or less affordable, rent still is more expensive than paying a mortgage payment. And I'm going to show you some data for that in a minute. Again, during this time frame, it got really inexpensive to have. It was much less affordable because of the crash in the market and all, but housing is still, purchase housing is still more affordable. If you look at parts of the country, this blows my mind. Last year, month over month in March. So if you take March of 2020 and look at from March of 2020 to March of 2021 to March of 2022. So 1 year rolling average here. In Tampa, houses went up about 43% in price. Whoa. I mean, that makes me hurt just to think about that. 43% increase in price in 1 year. Dog, man, who can afford that? I mean, that can't go forever, right? San Diego was about 37, 38%, Miami, 35%. Those are huge numbers. Nationwide, we saw about a 22 to 23% increase in prices nationwide. That's amazing. I mean, for all of my 36 years of doing this, 4 to 5% a year appreciation has been what we would call normal, quote unquote normal. So to see 20-something% in 1 year is, trust me, not normal and difficult to maintain over time. There were some areas of the country that did not maintain that pace. So while they did appreciate, it was not to the pace of the rest of the country. So Chicago, New York, again, I think we saw a lot of people flee those large cities and come to Tennessee, right? I mean, hello, Knoxville, Nashville, Murfreesboro, Clarksville, Chattanooga. I mean, we've all been inundated by people moving from out of state. So according to Goldman Sachs, 99% of all zip codes last year had some sort of positive house growth. So as far as pricing goes, so trust me, your zip code saw an increase in price last year. Affordability, again, these gets kind of complicated stuff here. This is an interesting slide, and I talked to my team about this yesterday. The light blue line is the price of new construction. The dark blue line is the price of existing homes. And they track each other, right? They've been tracking each other. New construction almost always has been a good deal more expensive. But look right here at the very end of this chart. What are the light blue line and the dark blue line doing right now? They're coming together, right? Weird. That's so weird. You know, I mean, that's so incredibly weird. Why would new home prices be coming down at the same time existing home prices are still going up? Why would we be seeing that? What would your thought be on that? Who works new construction? Anybody? I mean, in our world, what we're seeing in new construction is people put things under contract. It takes 2 years to get them built. Once they finally get out there, the price just went up, what, $70,000, and the interest rate's gone up. So we're seeing people walk away from new construction because they don't want to wait it out. They don't want to take the risk on the price being something. So they'll take an existing home. Are you guys seeing that? Anybody seeing that at all? Just, I'm fascinated. So now builders are beginning to drop prices on new construction. Think about what a time would be like back here in this area, 2005 and 6, when the price of new construction met the price of resale construction. If a buyer can buy new construction for the same price as existing construction, what do you think they'll buy?
New construction.
They're going to buy new, right? So I think you're seeing a push in the new construction market to bring these prices down so they can unload inventory. So for those of us who don't do new construction, but we work with sellers who are going to sell existing construction, what should our conversation with them be right now? Hey, dude, you better hurry up and get your house on the market, right? Because your competition is getting ready to be something you can't compete with. It's very difficult to compete with new construction when you're a resale property. So my advice would be, now is better than later when it comes to getting an existing priced home, existing home out there. Any other thoughts or feedback on that slide? To me, that's so fascinating. All right. If we look again, just generalized house appreciation quarter over quarter, again, around that 20% growth, and it's played out right here. If you look at what the pace that we're seeing from all of these people right here is, they're still projecting we are on pace right now for a 20% year over year growth, even going into this year. So a house that was $300,000 this year is going to be $360,000 next year, right? 20% growth. So that's something to think about, you know, for our buyers. If people are on the sideline going, well, I don't like these 5% interest rates. Well, I get it, but that $300,000 house you're looking at will cost $360,000 next year.
What?
So that's it. So question, anybody got a question? Awesome. So if we look at, these are just cities in the area. I'm looking to see if Nashville's on here. These are just some of the ones they picked out for some growth. We get people from Atlanta coming our way. So some of that is looking as far as inventory goes. If we look at for sale single family home inventory as compared to 2 years ago, like in New York, there was a good deal of inventory on the market back then. Today, there's less inventory on the market. Everybody's got less inventory on the market than they did 2 years ago. Duh, we know that, right? Let's look at single family homes available for sale. Right now, we're looking at roughly about a month of inventory on the market. I know I have a partner in Murfreesboro right now. They're a week on the market, okay? So their inventory is down quite a bit. We are seeing inventory come on the market. And when I get done with these slides, I want to talk just for a second about that. Ooh, I got to talk fast. So obviously still low inventory on the market. If you look at months supply of new construction versus resale property, again, as these get further and further apart, the prices are going to come closer together, right? So as we see a glut of new construction sitting there, they'll start dropping those prices down there. Median days on the market, this is nationwide average, is 15 days on the market. We are seeing our marketplace probably be similar to that. You guys seeing something similar maybe to that as well, but it's not this ain't your mama's market of 30 days ago, 90 days ago, right? Things are taking a little bit longer to be on the market, which is great. I mean, we need that. Here you go, Robbie. Foreclosure rates. This is the share of mortgages that are in foreclosure. It's 0.5%. So if you're looking and waiting and hoping to buy a foreclosure, pardon my English, it ain't going to happen, right? I mean, they're out there, but they're really hard to find. Back on new construction, again, multifamily, single family things. There's a lot of that construction going on out there right now. Housing starts. Obviously, everybody panicked in the pandemic. And then we have, people's thoughts about the market, and then the actual starts on the market are a little bit behind, lagging behind that. Home buyer sentiment from home builders, what they're seeing, again, is fairly positive still. Pending and existing home sales index, those typically track each other, and that's still doing that right now. Let's talk about home ownership. This was an interesting slide as well, and probably an opportunity for the market. This is the share of 18 to 34-year-olds that are still living with their parents. According to this, 33% of 18 to 34-year-olds are still living with their parents. So if that's you, it might be time to kick those people out the door. Okay. That's elevated, okay, from what we typically would see in the past. I mean, it looks like norm is maybe 25%, 26, 27. That's kind of the norm. So due to student loans and due to housing, again, that first-time housing hasn't been available. A lot of those folks are still at home. So there's opportunities there to perhaps find some housing for them. Household formation over the last year, again, was way down in the pandemic because, again, people were pandemicking, right? So we're back to more of a little more normal trend on that. Rental vacancy rates are at all-time lows because there are no houses to rent. Home ownership rate has normalized, okay? More in that like 65, 66% of folks own a home. That's I've seen that through the years, pretty much a standard number. In default, again, very few loans in default, very few people still in forbearance. And if you look at houses nationwide that have negative equity, in other words, their mortgage is more than their house is worth, it's about 2 to 3%. That's good news. Homeowners' equity in real estate has gone up and up and up because the house prices have gone up and up and up. This is fascinating to me as well. When we begin to see people doing refinances that are pulling out cash out of their equity, that makes me a little nervous because, again, is that because people are just spending money, or is it because the economy is so tight they've got to pull money to live? That's what happened back in 2005. I can't tell you the listing appointments I went on where people were refinancing and buying a truck, or refinancing and using the money to go on a vacation. They were using that to afford their lifestyle. And again, this line has crossed right here. We're beginning to see people cashing out equity. And that makes me nervous when I start seeing that. So again, that's just from having been through the 2005 thing. That makes me a little nervous to see people cash out money and use it for, why would you take money out of an asset like real estate and buy a truck? I love trucks, don't get me wrong, but it's not going to perform over time. Household debt, again, growing a little bit. We're seeing it's still maintaining a little more even pace. Credit card debt is the thing to watch. Okay, we're seeing some credit card debt seep in there. Debt to income ratios are still great though, so that's good. People are still maintaining right now, but this is interesting. The top, this is delinquency rates, okay, of things. So line right here is credit card debt. Interesting, the credit card delinquency rate has actually gone up. This is student loan delinquency rates. Those have gone down. Auto loan rate delinquencies have actually gone up. So interesting, credit card and auto debt, people are maybe taking on more of that than they should, and we're seeing some delinquency rates there. I'm going to skip through some because I know we're running out of time here. Personal bankruptcies, apparently something happened in the world right there. I don't know why, there's no data there. Household debt as a percentage of gross domestic product. That's an interesting thing to watch based on how our economy is performing overall. One last thing, commercial things. Who's got apartments being built right and left in your market? Apartment complexes. Here's why. This is commercial real estate prices. So value of, and number one thing on this list is apartments. They're getting more and more valuable because here's the asking rent. So this is asking rent rates. Look at this since 2011. It's just a straight shot. And then look at this little line right here. Wow. The rates have gone up quite a bit just in the past year or so. So that's why apartments are the bomb.com for institutional investors right now, because the return on that investment, not only for the value of the building, but the rent that they're getting. So that's why you see so many people looking to get into investment real estate right now. These other things are just, I think, more just general loan originations. Again, this is commercial property there. So I have blown through a whole bunch of stuff in a short amount of time. You know, your take on what you're seeing, I want you to give me your thoughts on that, and to also answer this question. We are doing a contest for our team right now to get 100 listings in 100 days. And so we're actually ahead of pace on that. We're doing great. I'm seeing it a little bit easier to get a listing right now. Is anybody else seeing that, or is that just me imagining things?
No, I think you're 100% correct. Our listing inventory has gone up a little bit as well. Because we have so much ammunition when we walk into a listing appointment now that we didn't have previously. So interest rates are going up, so that means less buyers are qualified, can afford less than they could, a couple months ago. And I think, there's you probably know even better than I do all the different things that we can walk into a listing appointment and say right now. But you're never going to, historically, you've never been able to get more than you can today if you list your house. Absolutely. And we know a potential recession from everything that we've read is coming. And I think a lot of people don't understand exactly what a recession is. And so that's in our pocket as well. So not prying on fear, but you don't know, like the crystal ball that I have is cloudy, right? We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. But what I can guarantee today is that you will get top dollar for your house if you list today. And I can't guarantee that tomorrow.
I love the script. That's awesome. And that is so true right now. We don't know. One good conversation I think we should have with our people, and you guys have probably heard this, not every recession is a housing recession. If you look back over the recessions over the past 50 years, there's been 5, 6, 7 of them. Only twice have housing prices actually gone down. So it's not every recession, and we probably aren't exactly in a recession. I'm guessing that by the end of this year, we will be in a recession. That to me means nothing other than opportunity. Okay, it's just an opportunity to get those listings, because you got to list to last, right? We're the ones that have those listings. We're the ones that own the market. And so for us to go out and get those listings, that's why we're focused on that right now. And I would challenge you today to be hyper focused on getting listings right now, because this is a great time. People are starting to realize, oh my gosh, things are changing, and they're more prone to talk about getting giving you that opportunity to get a listing right now. So questions, comments, anything from what I've blown through there? Yes, ma'am.
When you're talking about the difference between the new builds versus existing real
Yeah,
estate,
really.
since that line was coming together, is that going to make existing homes start to slow in appreciation?
I would think so. I would think in time it might happen, only because, again, if you can pay $400,000 for an existing home and $400,000 for a new construction home. Now the new construction home will be smaller. It'll be on an eensy teensy lot, right? It won't be the same stuff you get with a resale home. But my experience has been people will forget about that and they'll opt for new over resale. So I do think there's a little bit of a window right now for resale property to still get top of market before it starts leveling off. And I think we need to remind people I don't think we're going to see the market implode in any way. But when we go from 20% a year appreciation to what is normal of 4% a year appreciation, it's going to feel like we're going backwards. We aren't, but anytime when you slow down on the airplane, you're coming in for a landing, doesn't it feel weird because all of a sudden you slowed down, but you're still going really fast, right? That's what it's going to feel like in the market. So just be prepared for that. That's normal. Great question, Ellen. Anybody else? Anything at all? Robbie, anything you want to share outside? I loved your script. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, no, I think you covered it. I think you covered it really well. We're super blessed. This is information that we didn't have before the merger or the acquisition, or however you want to say it.
Yeah.
You are more well equipped to go out there and take these listings knowing what you know after today's call. And so, you know, I think that now is a peak opportunity. I think we should be calling our friends and family. They shouldn't be finding this information out on the news. It should be them finding it out from us. And if we're not calling our sphere and our clients and past clients and letting them know this information, then we're doing them a disservice. So it gives us a reason to reach out, touch base, let them know if they just bought a house. We're not seeing any signs of, you know, that house becoming less, I guess, I don't know, less valuable than it was previously. Because even if we look back at those slides of the amount of appreciation in a normal market, now we know Tampa Bay was 46% or something crazy, right? But even if you went, and I looked at the very end, the lowest one was still like four times the national average normally, of 3.5%, 4%, right? It was around 15%, I think. And so it's still amazing. Just the market that we're in. It's kind of exciting because we've been getting beat up really bad on the buy side on some of this stuff, and
the chance, yeah,
and unfortunately and fortunately, a lot of agents have gotten out of the business, and so this is our chance to capitalize on them stepping out of the business. And so we have information, we have the scripts, we have brevity to tell us who to call. We just got to do the work, and so it's ours for the taking.
Love it. Wes, I see you in the kitchen there. What's for breakfast? Oh, I can't hear you. Sorry, you're muted there.
If I'm in the kitchen, I'm making baked goods like brownies and biscuits and stuff like that.
That sounds good. All right.
Hey, I did want to mention to everyone that next week we're going to be talking about lead generating, because this is what we really need to focus on. Just like Robbie mentioned, some of the scripts we talked about. Steve Gilbert up in Clarksville is going to be presenting for us next week. So I'm really excited to hear Steve. He is a fanatic about prospecting. So I'm really excited about that one. So be on that. Also, we do have a link where you can see these recorded on the Tennessee Power Rep channel, and you'll be getting shared that through your team leaders there. So I just want to give you a heads up.
Awesome. Thanks guys for hanging out this morning. It was fun. Thanks for letting me hang out with you. Y'all have an awesome day.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.